Good morning. Happy Saturday. Welcome back. It's a Saturday show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza. Alex Napoles with me, as always. Thank you for making us a part of your Saturday morning. Hope everybody had a nice Memorial Day weekend out there last weekend. I know I did.
What'd you do, Christian?
I'll tell you what, I had some burgers, and I bring that up because I was listening to JJ and Alex, and Alex asked you if you had some burgers, and you said no.
I did, dude. I did not have burgers. I didn't do anything Memorial Day weekend.
Really?
No, I mostly, honestly, spent it catching up on chores, man.
I
went around, cleaned around the house, and helped around, and the roommates clean up and take care of the yard stuff and stuff like that. That's what I did for my Memorial Day weekend. Super boring, I know, but I didn't really have much to do, or didn't really feel like doing much.
Yeah,
I just kind of needed a relaxed weekend, and that's what I got last weekend.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Let's just say I hit up multiple barbecues. I had multiple burgers. It was a good weekend.
I'm jealous.
Yeah,
I'm jealous.
Sean, producing.
Yeah, I also grilled.
There you go.
But my biggest highlight was seeing Mission Impossible, the new one.
Oh, was it good?
It was awesome.
I need to get out and see it. I really liked the one with Henry Cavill in it. I can't remember what that one was. It Rogue Nation? I get them all mixed up. But
yeah, they all blend together
anyway,
for sure.
Yeah, the one with Henry Cavill was like really, really good. And then this being the last one in the franchise, got to get out and see it.
It's epic. You got to see it.
And I bet. I mean, I would assume it's one of those movies that you've got to go see in theaters, right?
Oh yeah. I saw it in IMAX. It was
that's
worth
cool.
it.
Yeah,
I think it's crazy and awesome that at 62 years old, Tom Cruise still does his own stunts.
I saw a stat, because we're sports guys. Tom Cruise is the same age in this Mission Impossible movie as Ian McKellen was when he played Gandalf in the first Lord of the Rings movie.
Wow.
Wow. Tom Cruise has aged a little better than Sir Ian McKellen.
That's actually crazy.
Yeah, that's wild. So,
but the fact that he's 62 years old and they're still dangling him off a plane.
Oh yeah,
that's insane.
Well, he
man.
didn't he? I haven't seen the movie, but doesn't he jump from one plane to another plane and it's a real stunt?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he's hanging on the
insane.
wing and 10 feet from the ground, underneath a plane, prop plane.
Ridiculous.
That's
cool.
I could do a whole 2-hour show on how incredible Tom Cruise is.
Yeah,
but we're here for sports.
Well, he does a lot of great things in the movies. And
yeah, man.
Off the screen, he's a bit of a wacko, but he's done a lot of good for Hollywood. And yeah,
I guess
gotta appreciate guys that do their own stunts. I guess I think that's pretty cool.
62, man, still doing it.
Wild. All right, yeah, you bring up some sports talk, Alex. So let's get into that. We'll start with NBA playoffs because the Thunder moved on. They beat the Timberwolves. Gentleman's sweep, 4-1. Then in the East, the Knicks picked up a game. So the Pacers still lead that series 3-2. They will be playing tonight. We would all assume with a 3-2 lead, the Pacers are going to be moving on. But like I said, the Knicks just won, so can't quite count them out yet. Of course, we all know how hard it is to come back from a 3-1 deficit, but I want to start here, Alex. I saw a lot of chatter throughout the week after the Thunder won on social media, listening to some other podcasts and such. Everybody's like, oh, the Thunder are the NBA's next dynasty. This is the start of a dynasty. And I'm curious for your thoughts on this because I was kind of I laughed at it. I was like, they haven't won anything yet. They beat the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals.
Yes.
They're going to their first finals as as this team, right? They haven't been since 2012. So this particular era of this Thunder team, it's their first finals appearance. Not only that, they were the best team in the NBA all season, so I'll give them that. But they beat a Timberwolves team that we all knew was flawed coming into the playoffs. That Julius Randle trade, he had a great series against Minnesota, but we all knew that Julius Randle trade was a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to last draft, they traded up to pick 6 or something to draft Rob Dillingham, a rookie who has hardly played at all this year. that was a bad move. Minnesota was a very, very flawed team, and I know that they had good performances throughout the playoffs, but we can't act like Oklahoma City is this next great. They're not the Golden State Warriors just because they beat Minnesota,
Right.
and they're going to the finals. I think it's very, very premature to start crowning them as a dynasty.
I would 100% agree.
You think so?
I do think so. I don't think we're at that conversation yet. I think first of all, before we even have that conversation, we have this discussion. They have to go out and they have to win.
Right.
I mean, they're already halfway there, making it to the NBA Finals. But honestly, I don't think anybody's surprised that they're in the NBA Finals, right? This is everyone kind of expected them to be there already. So now they need to take the step, which is winning the actual title, winning the NBA championship. If they can win the NBA Finals, then we can start talking about and having the conversation about the dynasty. But they haven't. They've proven that they're good. They've proven that they're great, and they've proven that they can get there. But can they reach the finish line? Can they make it across the finish line first?
Yeah.
Then we can have that conversation about the dynasty. I've already seen articles and people talking about comparing them to the 2015 Warriors team, and
Crazy.
And it's premature. It's premature. You got to go out and you got to win.
So right now, as in 2024-25 NBA season, right? The only team that would come close to being a quote-unquote dynasty is the Boston Celtics, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you go back to 2021-22 when this all started, right? So they lost in the 2020-21 season. They lost in the first round of the playoffs to the Nets. Then the Celtics go to the finals, and they lose to the Warriors. Then they go to the conference finals the next year. They lose to the Heat. Then they win the NBA Finals. And then this year, as we know, they lost the conference semifinals. So even then, 2 finals appearances, 1 finals win, like that's borderline a dynasty. I don't even know if that qualifies as a surefire dynasty. And maybe it does. It's kind of one of those words that means a little different to everybody, right? But I think with the Thunder in particular, what a lot of people are not realizing, I think
with the Thunder, look, 1920, you make the playoffs. You get eliminated in the first round.
Right.
You didn't make the playoffs again for another couple years. You don't even make it back into the playoffs until the 23-24 season.
Yeah.
So you went a few years straight without even making it to the postseason.
Well, and that was a different era, right? Because that's when they had like Chris Paul.
Right, but I'm talking about with dynasty, you have to have sustained success.
Yeah,
so it's success over a long period of time. They haven't shown it yet.
No. And they're saying that this is the beginning of the dynasty, right? The beginning of that sustained success. But the thing that is right around the corner is next year, your second and third best player in Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, they're both due contracts next season. They are under contract for the 25-26 season, right? So this upcoming year. And then next summer, these 2 guys are going to have to get paid.
Right.
And odds are, because Jalen Williams made 3rd team All-NBA and an All-Star game, if that happens again, he's going to be eligible for an even bigger contract.
Right.
Of course, SGA, we know because he won MVP, because he's got the 1st team All-NBA selection, he's going to be due for an even larger contract. We're talking about $70 million plus a year.
Right.
And that Shea's contract is still a couple years down the road. It would be smarter for him to wait, because the longer he waits, the more money he'll be eligible for. But regardless, as far as Chet and Jalen Williams in particular, those guys were taken in the same draft. They're both due next summer. The new second apron from the collective bargaining agreement makes it so hard to keep a team together, as we're seeing with the Boston Celtics. Even before they lost this year, even before Jason Tatum tore his Achilles, there were talks about the Celtics are probably going to have to move off of Drew Holiday and or Kristaps Porzingis. They're 2 better role players, right? So with the Thunder, you're talking about moving off either Chet or Jalen Williams. You might not be able to keep around guys like Lou Dort, guys like Alex Caruso. I know they're on cheap contracts right now, but they don't want to play cheap forever.
Right.
And as I said earlier, the Thunder have a ton of assets. They've got Nikola Topic, their first round pick this year, didn't even play. And he was a very, very highly touted prospect coming in. So I don't want to pretend that they don't have assets to set them up for the future, right? But again, those are just assets. We don't know what they're going to look like on the floor. So as far as this core team that is going to the finals right now, I'd be really, really surprised if these three are still together in, let's say, 2 or 3 more years.
I would absolutely agree. And I think for OKC, if you go and you win the NBA Finals, the positive thing about it, and the apron, everybody talks about the aprons and how it's changed everything, and how it's difficult to keep a team around because of the new aprons and the new rules that have been set up by the CBA. However, the positive thing that you can look at for the Thunder is what you're talking about, Christian, the assets. They have the ability to kind of retool with either the draft or making some moves with the assets that you have, because their treasure chest is full. And they have the ability to make something happen with those assets. That's the positive, and that can be looked at because of the treasure chest that the Thunders have. That can potentially help prolong your dynasty and extend your window and extend your dynasty. But the reality is, can they hold on to Chet and Jalen Williams? That's going to be the biggest question.
And there were talks, if they decide to pursue Giannis or whoever in the offseason, which they very well should, because if this is their championship window and they want to become a dynasty and keep it open as long as they can, you got to make moves to win now, right? And if Giannis becomes available and the Thunder decide they want to go all in, they're probably going to have to give up one of Chet or Jalen. And yes, you'd be getting Giannis in return, but at his age, I don't know. Giannis isn't that old. It would be a move that would allow them to win a lot and win now. But I have a very hard time crowning anybody as a dynasty before they've even won a championship. I think that's pretty ridiculous.
I
think it was a very big overreaction. Give me a break.
I think so too. And I think that's just our need as sports media people, and to want to have somebody that's in a dynasty, to have somebody that's dominating the NBA. But honestly, I think what makes the NBA so fun right now is the parity. Don't give me the dynasties. Don't give me the Golden State Warriors. Don't give me teams who are making it consistently to the finals, like we saw Golden State and Cleveland make it consecutively for 3 years in a row.
Yeah,
I don't want to see that. I don't care to see that.
That's exactly what this second apron is for.
Exactly.
And
I want to see parity.
Working.
I want to see parity. I want to see, the ability for teams to beat other teams. I want to see the ability for the Thunder to make it to an NBA Finals. For the Pacers to make it to the NBA Finals, man. Everybody underrated the Pacers this season.
Yeah.
Nobody saw the Pacers coming. Tyrese Halliburton has taken it to another step in the playoffs. Game 5, questionable. He didn't play his best game, but that's fine. But I love the NBA right now because there is some semblance of parity, and that makes it fun to watch because you're at the point where anybody can beat anybody, and that's, I think, from a neutral perspective, what people want to see.
Yeah. Well, even with the Pacers, the bill comes due eventually, right? This is kind of their shot.
100%.
Because Miles Turner, one of their key role players, a guy that's been with the team for a very, very long time, his contract is up after this year. He's going to be a free agent. So if you're Indiana, you got to decide. Pascal Siakam's already making $45 million a year. So is Tyrese Halliburton. So it's like Miles Turner at 19 right now, he's probably going to want even more than that. Probably a number close to 25 or 30. So yeah, you got to decide. Do you give up that money to Miles Turner and limit the rest of your team? You've got the reason the Pacers are this far is because they're role players. Yes, Tyrese Halliburton has made a ton of big shots. Pascal Siakam has played great, but you've got guys like Andrew Nembhard, who has been so good on defense, locked down Jalen Brunson. And it's like, that's what gets you over the top. Every team, almost every team, has a star. But what separates the great teams from the good teams are the ones that have incredible depth. And if you're paying, 3 guys top of the dollar contracts, you're not able to fill out your depth.
Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, Lakers, Nuggets.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing. That's the trend we're seeing right now in the NBA, honestly. And I think, again, like you mentioned, that's why the Indiana Pacers have been able to make it this far. And now the same thing can probably said about the Knicks, where you trade for Bridges, you trade for Towns, you build this roster, but decisions for them are going to have to be made to this offseason. So for the Knicks, their window opened and might shut very, very quickly.
Yeah. Because if you make the wrong move, we saw the Mikal Bridges trade last year, right? What was it, 5 or 6 first-round picks?
It was a lot. They gave up a lot for Bridges.
And then you trade for Cat, and it's like, okay, you deplete all of your assets. You go all in, and if that doesn't work, then it's like, okay, the Knicks are so limited in what they can do now. They're going to have to trade. If they want anything, they're going to have to trade one of their key pieces, whether that is Bridges or Cat. But I would argue Bridges' trade value is much lower than it was last year because everybody's kind of seeing, how he's played so far with the Knicks. He didn't do himself any favors. He didn't do the Knicks any favors. So, and then you've got the whole coaching thing and things like that. But it's really hard for teams to find sustained success. And when you have the ability to win, when your window is open, I mean, you got to capitalize. And that's got to give the Knicks credit because that's what they thought they were doing, right? With those trades, we're talking about the Thunder potentially trading for Giannis. Like I'm saying, go all in. The Knicks thought that those 2 moves were the moves. And unfortunately for them, it didn't work out.
There's still somewhat of a chance. 3-2.
I guess, yeah.
There's still somewhat of a chance.
We shouldn't be talking about the Knicks like they're dead and buried. But
I thought they were last week, but their ability to come back and make it a 3-2 series, there's still a shot. Will it happen? I don't know. I don't think so. I think Indiana, the Pacers at home tonight.
Yeah.
I think they'll end up closing the series there, but again, if the Knicks aren't able to make it to an NBA Finals with the moves that they made, it's just I think from a Knicks perspective, that's incredibly disappointing. You loaded up this roster, and you loaded up this team with the sole purpose of going and winning an NBA championship.
Yeah.
You created this team around Jalen Brunson to make a run to win an NBA championship, and you're going to fall short.
Same with the Timberwolves.
And you have no assets. You have nothing. You have no. You have minimal assets to.
Yeah, you gave up all of your picks
in the offseason. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with the Knicks, man. But if they can make it, if they can come back and make it a 3-3 series and take it back to the Garden, that's going to be a very interesting Game 7, considering the fact that they were down 3-1.
No, that would be fun. I'm sure that Timothy Chalamet and Miles Teller,
Spike
Lee, and the rest of MSG would be rocking. But yeah, first Game 6 obviously is Game 6 tonight.
Right.
6 p.m. tip off. Real quick, I do want to talk about the Timberwolves just because we talked about the rest of the teams that were in the conference finals. I mentioned the Julius Randle trade. I was never a fan of that. I thought that was a really bad trade, and it almost looked like he redeemed himself through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, but his weaknesses really showed up there in the Western Conference Finals. It's a guy that's who he has always been. He's always been hot and cold, and you know that he can play bully ball on offense down in the paint, and if he has a size mismatch against the defenders, he's going to put up a big number like he did against Golden State. But then when teams kind of figure out how to take him away, he's a non-factor. You can't do that with almost $31 million to be a non-factor on offense. I mean, he was like 2 of 11 in one of their games. Like, you can't be shooting like that.
Right.
And then you've got Rudy Gobert, who we talked about this last week. They were not putting him on the floor. And part of that was foul trouble. But part of it is because, again, he's such a non-factor on offense. And the way that the Thunder play their defense with the zone and all the switching and stuff, like Rudy Gobert couldn't do anything. So two of your three biggest contracts on the team, on the Timberwolves, were non-factors on offense against the Thunder. And Anthony Edwards, he had a couple big games, but he had a couple of quiet games as well. And essentially my point is, through the Rudy Gobert trade and the Julius Randle trades, again, similar to the Knicks, the Timberwolves have given up basically all of their future assets to go all in with this roster. And now to get out of it, it's like you're going to have to talk about trading away. I mean, nobody's going to want to trade for Rudy. So that would be ideal for Minnesota if a team would take that contract, but nobody's going to. So you basically can't even talk about that. Julius Randle has 1 year left on his deal. Maybe they can trade him away. But you're probably looking at one of your key role players, again, like Jaden McDaniels, or maybe a guy like DiVincenzo or Naz Reid. Like, it would suck to lose one of those guys. But the reality is that's probably what they're looking at. And you've still got Gobert and Randle on your roster.
I think we have to give them credit because, 4 years ago, I don't think anybody saw Minnesota making it to the conference finals back-to-back.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, give them a little bit of credit for what they did achieve. But again, similar to the conversation we're having with the Knicks, they brought in all this talent. They made all these moves to get over that hump to potentially make a run at an NBA Finals. You don't do it, and now you've kind of hit a crossroads where decisions have to be made. And it's unfortunate because you have probably one of the best young faces in the league right now in Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
And, you can potentially build something fun and good around him, but when you have a guy like Rudy who's going to be entering now a 3-year contract extension, Julius Randle who has a player option, and then you look at other guys that are going to be hitting the market like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's entering now as a free agent. Same with Naz Reid, who I think also has a player option. But decisions are going to have to be made to retool this roster because you're kind of at a crossroads now where you have to decide and figure out ways to extend your window.
Yeah.
Because if you don't make moves to extend your window this summer, that window can shut real quick considering how much money you're going to be tied up with the guys that you currently do have.
Again, like the Celtics, like this was a team a year ago.
Yeah.
Again, they finally made it over the top. They won the NBA Finals, and we're, again, talking about a dynasty. Now, a year later, it's like, oh, yeah, they're going to have to move role players. Jason Tatum tore his Achilles. He's going to be out all of next year. And then what? And it's like, yeah, they're probably only going to get one title with this Celtics team. Like, it's just crazy how fast things can change in the NBA and just in the world of sports in general. Like, year to year, you never know what's going to happen. So you just have to live in the present, I think, is the biggest thing, right? A lot of teams get too focused on setting themselves up for the future and trying to outsmart the room. I think the Thunder are a really good example of that because I know that they accumulated all of these assets, right?
The Thunder played a really long game.
Right.
And it's finally paying off.
They weren't trying to stay competitive 4 years ago while also planning for the future. They said, let's take on all these bad contracts, accumulate all these first-round picks, trade away Paul George, and then set ourselves up. So you just got to be smart. And I think that whether the Thunder become a dynasty or not, they've been incredibly smart. And that is, I think, the biggest takeaway. They have shown themselves over the last, 4 years. Obviously, it could have easily not worked out if they didn't hit on their draft picks. But again, that's part of being smart. They've made really good draft picks. They've made really good trades. The Alex Caruso trade was phenomenal. Trading away Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso, essentially straight up. I don't think they even gave up any first-round picks. I think they gave up Giddey and like a second-round pick or something.
Yeah.
Like, that's an incredibly smart move because you're getting a really, really high-level role player who's not going to want to be treated like a star, who's not going to beg for money. He's comfortable taking a back seat to where you've got your MVP candidate, your all-star in Jalen Williams, and then your number 2 overall pick in Chet. Let those guys run the show. Alex Caruso's fine taking a back seat. So, again, you just got to be smart, and it's a lot easier said than done. But some of these teams try to outsmart the room.
Well, and I think it takes a little bit of luck, too.
It takes a lot of bit of luck.
It takes a lot of bit of luck, yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. I know Chet broke his hip, right, earlier this year. And
oh, yeah.
Considering that, it's like he still is putting up big numbers. So credit to him for fighting through that and coming back. But the Thunder have been relatively healthy. And I know that Minnesota basically was too, but Golden State wasn't, right? Denver wasn't. And then over in the East, of course, the Celtics, the Cavaliers. Like, yeah, you got to be lucky.
They've gotten lucky with the way they've drafted. They've gotten, I mean...
Yes and no, yeah.
Maybe there's a little bit of luck tied to the emergence of SGA, too. I mean, considering that I don't think anybody thought that he would get to where he is now.
Yeah, I don't know.
At the MVP levels.
I heard MVP candidate, like, not his first year in Oklahoma City, but like in his second year, people started saying, MVP potential. And yeah, guys like Luka technically have never won an MVP, right? So it's like, does that ever come to fruition? But I guess you're right. Yeah, at the moment of the trade, they knew Shea had a very high ceiling.
They saw a ceiling, and they've done a phenomenal job of developing it.
But a 30-point per game MVP candidate doing this,
yes.
Yeah, you're right. They didn't know that was a thing. That was just a really, really good trade.
I think a lot of people have the Thunder winning it all. Whether it's the Knicks who advance, whether it's the Pacers who advance, I think a lot of people have already written off the Eastern Conference, whoever makes it out, and a lot of people are already crowning the Thunder. And I guess, again, to answer the overall question, are they a dynasty? Time will tell. Time will tell.
Well,
if they can win it, we can have, but we can potentially start to have that conversation, but they've got to win it.
I don't agree with that.
First and foremost, they have to go out and they have to win.
No, this should not be a conversation unless they win it this year and then win it again the next year.
Sure.
Or win it again this year, maybe conference finals next year, and then win it again in 2 years. Like, I don't think dynasty should be a conversation until you have at least 1 or 2 titles.
Sustained success.
Yeah, sustained success. That's the biggest thing. And the measuring stick, who knows exactly what that looks like, but
they haven't won anything yet.
And
yet. I already see, there's already 4 articles on ESPN talking about the next dynasty and putting them up as the 2015 Golden State Warriors.
I think it would be so funny if they lose to the Pacers. I think that would be hilarious, and I'm here for it.
I'd be happy for either team to win it, honestly.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't care in particular.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be thrilled.
I wouldn't care.
But like, for this, because of all the, I mean, goodness, because we had Monday off, right? So people come in.
Little slap in the face to Stephen A. Smith.
To everybody. People come in Tuesday, and it's like, oh my gosh, the Thunder, what are we going to do? They're just so good. We might as well not even play. It's like, okay, guys, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Denver dang near beat them.
And it's interesting, too, because, I mean, the conversation all week has been, we're going to get OKC Pacers in the final. We're going to get OKC Pacers in the final. And, I mean, sure, they're up 3-1, but you lose Game 5, now it's Game 6, and the Knicks aren't dead.
No, you never know.
The Knicks aren't dead, but a lot of people have been talking about it all week as if the Knicks were already dead.
Yeah.
It's weird. See. It's crazy.
We'll see what happens tonight.
I'm excited for it, man.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. Coming up next, we will continue on the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Let's get into some drama, Alex.
Oh, I love drama.
Don't we all? There's always drama in sports, right? Long story short, the college football playoff, ever expanding, ever changing. The SEC in the Big Ten versus the ACC and the Big 12. the Big 12 and the ACC are always going to fight for the little guy. Then you got the big powerhouses who want everything for themselves, right? Essentially, in Orlando, Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark has shown support for the college football playoff model they're calling it the 5+11 model. So there would be 5 auto bids for the 5 conference champions and then 11 at-large bids up for grabs for everybody else. And at first thought, you'd think that that's not good for the Big 12, right? Because that's only one auto bid. And then they'd have to fight for the remaining 11 spots. But explain, Alex, why that's actually better.
I actually don't mind it at all.
Really?
As far as the 5+11 model, I actually don't mind it because I think it's like Brett Yormark says. At the end of the day, it has to be proven on the field. You have to prove that you are a playoff team by winning games. And for the most part, he's right. For the most part, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But then you have the SEC who's scheduling FCS games in November to help improve their resumes and improve their schedule, and make it seem like they're doing better than they actually are. And so there's still stuff like that needs to be addressed too. And I mean, that's been a hot topic of conversation throughout the course of the week at the SEC spring meetings, whether or not they should expand their schedule to 9 conference games, like everybody else.
Right. Because, you get... Well, and then the SEC submits this packet. Did you hear about this? They submitted like a packet to explain why they had a higher strength of schedule compared to everybody else, even though they only had 8 conference games. So basically, you've just got, again, they're hoarders, right?
Right.
They're the big brother who wants everything for themselves. They're not going to share with the younger siblings. And I think, again, that was Brett Yormark's explanation, right? Proving it on the field. But at the end of the day, it's more so not just proving it on the field for that year's playoff, but it's proving that you can hang year after year with the big dogs. And I think that this is probably the best way to do that. The other option was the 4-4-3-3-1+1 model, which is very confusing. But essentially, the SEC and Big Ten would get 4 automatic qualifiers and then 2 qualifiers to the Big 12 and ACC. Then 1 bid would go to the highest ranked group of 6 conference champion, and then 3 at-large selections. One of those would contractually be obligated to go to Notre Dame if they finish in the top 60 in the rankings, yada, 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 yada.
Right.
But I think the biggest difference in those is, say the Big 12 has a really good year. Say Arizona State, BYU, and Utah all finish in the top 16. In the 5-11 format, they would all make the playoff.
Right.
In the other one, the other proposal, the Big 12 can only ever get 2 teams in. So it puts a ceiling on them. And you will never, again, as far as talking about year after year, proving that you can hang with the big dogs, you'll never be able to prove that. If the most teams you can get into the playoff is only 2, you just can't. But if you're able to get 3 teams in, which I honestly think the Big 12 can, they were pretty close.
They were very close
last year.
Very close this past season.
So I think that's possible. I don't think that's crazy talk.
The +11, the 11 at-large bids, it's great for people like us who are in Big 12 territory and we have ties to the Big 12, and it allows more of the Big 12 teams to get there. The SEC, though, on the fence about it, because obviously they want the most they can get from their teams.
Yeah, they want 4 automatic
And so
bids.
Greg Sankey talking about, I don't think there's a need for change, but it's clear that the system right now is they want to expand it to get more teams in.
Yeah.
Everybody's on the same page about expansion.
Right now it's only
12.
It's only 12 teams. It has not been expanded to a 16-team format yet.
No.
So this is all speculation. Of course, it could happen as soon as next year. The deadline is December, is when
December 1st.
ESPN would need to be notified, and all these conference commissioners would need to agree. But yeah, this could be happening very soon, but it hasn't happened yet. It's just funny. It's a dog and pony show because
everybody's just trying to.
Well, the SEC wants to act like they're getting picked on.
Nobody's picking the SEC. Nobody's picking on the SEC. The SEC right now has all the power in college football, even more so than the Big Ten.
Oh yeah.
Greg Sankey is unfortunately the most powerful guy in college football right now, and he has way too much power. It's literally going to come down to Sankey on whether or not the 5+12 goes through or not.
Well, he's just upset that Alabama didn't make it in last year, right?
Oh,
and
boo-hoo.
if it goes to a 5-11 format, then yeah, there's a year where say the Big 12 does get 3 teams in, and the Big 10 gets 2 or 3 teams in. You're not going to get 3 teams in from the SEC. That means they're going to look bad, and the last thing Greg Sankey wants is for the SEC to look bad, because Ohio State just won the playoff, right?
Right.
Big 10 team. So
Who won it last year?
was it Georgia?
It was Michigan.
Oh yeah, Michigan, right. And then Georgia the year before. But right, we're coming off back-to-back Big 10 championships. And right now, the SEC looks like that's the thing, is they don't look like they're struggling. Nobody would actually say that. Nobody would say, oh, the SEC is not the best or second best conference in football. Like, it's crazy to actually think that. But Greg Sankey thinks that that's what everybody thinks. He's so paranoid about looking worse than the ACC or the Big 12. God forbid. Like, it's just crazy. And I don't understand, as you mentioned, one of the most powerful people in sports. I don't understand how he can have that much power to where it's like,
see,
he can have so much sway over this.
Right, and that's where the issue stems from. To me, it's not about expansion. Whatever's going to happen to the model, whatever's going to happen to the college football playoff, it's going to happen, right? It's inevitable. It's going to happen. What needs to change is, and it's not going to change because they bring in the most money, but what needs to change is how much power the SEC and the Big Ten have over all this.
Right.
They're talking about how the SEC coaches want to play, the Big Ten. They want to have more consistent games and more consistent games and matchups against Big Ten teams to prove that they are better than the Big Ten. And so eventually, right, last year the big conversation was, when does the Super Conference come into play?
Yeah.
And it seems like that's what the SEC coaches want. They don't care about the Big 12. They don't care about the ACC.
Ultimately, that's what it is.
They just want to show it to the Big Ten. And I think the networks, as far as like ESPN and Fox goes, they don't care because it's going to bring in the most money.
Right. And that's what it's all about, is money. And yes, ultimately, again, nobody has ever said that Alabama doesn't draw eyeballs or Michigan doesn't draw eyeballs. Like, that's not Michigan, Georgia. Like, let's not pretend like, again, it's not like the SEC is struggling. It's not like people aren't tuning in to watch their games. Greg Sankey has no reason to be this paranoid about everything.
100%.
And I think it's really funny, honestly. But at the same time, it's a little frustrating to see like how much power his no can have.
Right. Look, I'm all for the 5+11 model. I like it. I think it's great for, again, the Big 12. I think it's great for the ACC, and it's great for a potential like Boise State, again, to make it and have position themselves in a good spot to make a college football playoff. What I don't agree with, and this was a big topic of conversation from the Big 12 meetings too, was the expansion of the NCAA tournament.
You feel pretty strongly about that?
I don't agree.
See, I disagree with your disagreement.
Whoa!
Double disagree.
Whoa!
I really don't care, honestly. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
I look, if you expand, I think 64 or 68, because if you count the first four out.
68 right now,
right,
including the first 4.
68 is a good number. Because I think if you expand it and you allow more teams to come in, it dilutes the product. You're going to allow a fringe team who probably from the Big 12 who probably didn't deserve to make it into the tournament.
Yeah, there's also a lot of teams that don't deserve to make it, which I don't know, kind of always happens, but that's how you get your Cinderellas. And I don't know last year off the top of my head, did any of the teams that were first four in, I don't think any of them won, right? In the first actual round.
I'd have to go back.
I don't think so, but I don't know. I hear your argument about getting watered down, but at the same time,
you'd get like a Kansas State in who was barely a 500 team making it into the tournament.
Potentially, or yeah, I could see that, or maybe another smaller school that nobody's ever heard of. But my biggest thing is like, yeah, if you don't want to watch it, then don't watch. You don't have to watch the other teams play. I think, well, ultimately we know it just comes down to money, right? More games on TV equals more money for the networks, and that's what it's for. They don't actually care about giving more teams a chance to win. It's about putting a couple extra games on TV. I just don't really see how it would, quote unquote, dilute the product. It would just give more games to play. And if they're not that good, then they're going to lose. And they're out anyways, right? But if they are good, then you're going to get Cinderella runs. I don't know.
I understand why the Big 12 wants to push for expansion. Again, same thing, the same conversation we're having with the college football playoff model is you want more of your teams to make it. You want more of your teams in there for the revenue, for the exposure, for your conference, right? The Big 12 is a really good basketball conference.
Yes,
but
traditionally.
I think 68 is perfectly fine. There's no need to expand it.
I think exposure is a good word. Yeah, you could say we got 6 teams in the tournament or 7 teams. I don't know how many they had last year. Again,
the SEC had 14.
Right.
And I think that's where this stems from.
That's the bigger problem is that.
Yeah.
That's diluting the product because you get crappy bottom of the barrel SEC teams. But if you're taking the top, I don't know, however many of the SEC and then adding a couple more Big 12 teams instead of bad SEC teams, I think that makes a better product, to be honest.
So then now the conversation turns to the bids, right? We don't need to expand this thing. We just need to focus on the bids and how teams get those bids. Big 12 had 7. SEC had 14.
Okay.
So maybe there's a way to work around being able to allow
getting less SEC teams.
Yes, there you go.
So you're talking like 10 Big 12 teams and 10 SEC teams or something like that.
Right. But again, that's not expansion. That's just looking at the bids and the way that teams qualify for the NCAA tournament. There's no need for expansion. 68's fine.
Yeah, but
if that's such a big problem, then let's focus on the bids. Let's focus on the way that the way that the teams get there. Same thing with the college football playoff. It's not about the 16. It's not about 12 or whatever. It's about the bids. Why are they changing it to straight seeding this season?
Because people were mad Boise State got a bye.
Yes. And again, that goes back to the bids and how people get there.
Yeah, the bids were the problem. I think as far as expansion, though, like there's no need for it. I don't think that's a good enough argument because, again, like if you picture a scale, right, on one side is networks getting to put more games on, which brings in more money, which gives more money to everybody, not just for the networks. And then on the other side of the scale, you just have no need for it. Like, yeah, even if there's not a need for it, if you have a way to make more money, make more money. And I know that does lead to a slippery slope, right? If you expand to 72 or 74 or whatever, then you're probably going to want to expand again. And when does it stop? And eventually everybody's going to be in, right?
Look at the college football playoff.
Right. That is the scary thought. And I do agree with that. So
look at the college football playoff, man. Maybe
you want to say, yeah, don't expand now so you don't have to worry about continuing to expand. I guess I could buy into that, but I don't know. I'm not sold that would be a bad thing. I'm not sold that expansion would be a bad thing. And I know there are a lot of people that are like super, super anti-expansion, which, yeah, again, I don't know. Don't watch don't watch the games.
That's, I don't know. Maybe it's just the way my brain works, but I am all for 16 in the college football playoff. I do enjoy 16. I don't think you should go anywhere past 16
For the college football
for
playoff?
college football.
Yeah.
16 is the cap.
Well, again, it's all experimental right now, right? We just saw the very first 12-team playoff, and they immediately made changes.
Right.
And they're making more changes. So, yeah, we'll see what the 16-team looks like, and then after that...
And that's even if we get to 16.
Oh, we're getting to 16.
Because the SEC...
I think somebody's going to fold. Regardless, yeah, we'll get to 16, and I think before we see expansion of the college football playoff again... it's more likely that we'd see more conference realignment before then.
Oh, yeah.
That's just me speculating.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we'll see.
Super League.
We got to take a break, though. Coming up next, we'll get to technical fouls. Stephon Diggs, big topic of conversation. You got to hear about this next. This is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You heard it there. It's time for Technical Fouls, one of our favorite segments every single week. We get to talk about some of the funnier things that happen in the world of sports. Alex, I'll start us off today.
Let's do it.
Let's go with Stephon Diggs.
Oh.
Newly minted New England Patriots wide receiver. Started his career with the Minnesota Vikings. Spent some time in Buffalo. Last year he was with the Texans. Just barely signed a free agent deal with the Patriots. Where do we start? Let's start with this. He's dating Cardi B.
Yep.
The rapper.
Right.
There was a video of Stephon Diggs earlier in the week. He was on a yacht, like a really nice yacht or something, with Cardi B and some of her friends, apparently, or some other women. There were a lot of women, and they're all surrounding Stephon Diggs, right? And first off, it's funny because, they're all up on him, to put it plainly. They're all up on him. And, again, he's dating Cardi B.
Right.
So that part alone is funny. But that's not, whatever. That's not a technical file. That's not newsworthy. No. The part that is newsworthy. Stephon, he must not have known he was being filmed, but he pulls out a white baggie with a pink substance in it. Nobody knows what is in this baggie. Nobody knows what the pink substance is. But we have clues, Alex, because he gives it to one of the girls and he says, "Don't do it all." Now, I don't know what was in that bag, but there was a lot of speculation online.
Right. Including what Alex Carey's favorite word of the show this week, which was pink cocaine. And
that was the leading theory.
That was the leading theory.
It's pink cocaine. Now,
and he would throw pink cocaine into the show any chance he could.
I had never heard of pink cocaine before this week.
I haven't either.
I didn't know that was a thing. Stephon Diggs, I don't know what his excuse is going to be for the Patriots because they were not happy with him. They're currently holding the other fold of this story. They're currently holding voluntary off-season training activities, OTAs.
Right.
Now, the key word is voluntary, so you don't have to be there. But they signed Stephon Diggs, former All-Pro, Pro Bowler, to come in and be a veteran leader on this team, to come in and lead. They've got a very young group of wide receivers. I think they've drafted 3 or 4 wide receivers in the last 2 drafts.
Right.
So they signed Diggs to come in and be the mentor here.
Oof.
You miss OTAs, fine, whatever. A video comes out, you're partying on some mega yacht, allegedly handing out bags of pink cocaine. Yeah, I wouldn't be too happy if I was the New England Patriots.
No.
And Mike Vrabel, the head coach, was not.
He did not sound happy.
He was not.
He did not sound happy. It's funny because, this video comes out and now a viral video that went viral back when Stephon Diggs was with the Vikings has now resurfaced and has gone viral again.
I love this video.
It's the video of someone within the Viking staff asking the players, who on the team would you not like to date your sister? And every
without
single one of the
players,
they say Stephon Diggs. And now we see why.
Right.
Now we know why. And the best part about it is at the end of the video, Stefan's like, I'm a good guy.
Yeah, the guy, the social media manager or whatever is like, oh, everybody has said you for this answer. And Stefan Diggs is like genuinely offended. He's like, what? And it looks like he's about to cry.
I'm a good guy.
He's like, yeah, I'm a good guy. Yeah, I don't know if that's true.
Well, now you have, you're on a yacht and you have women calling you daddy, and while you're flashing pink cocaine at them. So
I do want to bring up, while we're talking about Stefan Diggs, one of my favorite Stefan Diggs stories. One year for Valentine's Day, there was a rumor or report. I don't know if it was official or not, but allegedly he had 2 different rooms for 2 different girls in the same hotel.
Hey-o.
So that's pretty funny. Back to Mike Vrabel. I found his statement, though. They asked him about it at OTAs. He said, it's something that we're aware of. Obviously, we want to make great decisions on and off the field. We're hoping that with our time on the field today and when we don't have a script and when we're on the call periods, that we're making great decisions. The message will be the same for all our players. We're trying to make great decisions. Any conversations that I've had with Stefan will remain between him and I and the club.
It's not a good look when you sign him to come in and be the veteran presence and the leader for your young receiver room.
Yeah.
Not a good look when you're on a boat.
He is rehabbing from a torn ACL, too.
Doing substances.
Well, allegedly.
Allegedly.
We don't know what it is.
Allegedly.
It could have been, I said it looked like fabric softener, like those little laundry beads. Jake Scott was saying margarita salt.
Yeah, there you go.
Ben was saying Himalayan sea salt.
Yeah.
Or it could have been like the rock candy, like the sugar crystals.
The little Pop Rocks.
Yeah, maybe it was that.
Yeah. It was probably Pop Rocks.
Don't do it all.
Don't do it all.
Those are my Pop Rocks. Okay, that was a long one. Let's get to yours, because yours is really good too. Your technical foul.
Yes, real quick, I want to issue a technical foul to head coach Pete DeBoer for the Dallas Stars. They obviously got eliminated. We'll probably dive into NHL talk later on in the show, but they are eliminated. They lost to the Oilers, and the head coach had this to say about his goalie following their elimination.
Well, anytime you pull a goalie, there's the reasoning's always to try and spark your group. So that was the number one reason. We had talked endlessly in this series about trying to play with the lead. And obviously we were in a 2-0 hole right away. And you know what, I didn't take that lightly, and I didn't blame it all on Jake. But, the reality is if you go back to last year's playoffs, he's lost 6 to 7 games to Edmonton, and we gave up 2 shots on 2 goals in an elimination game. So, it was partly to spark our team and wake them up, and partly, knowing that, status quo had not been working, and that's a pretty big sample size.
Have you ever seen a head coach just absolutely steamroll and throw one of his guys under the bus the way that DeBoer just threw his goalie under the bus?
This is the goalie, too. This isn't like some random, second or third stringer on the team. This is your starting goalie. They're like the heart and soul of the team.
Right.
Teams don't get anywhere.
It would be like Bear coming out and saying something like that about Vejmelka, bro.
Right. Teams don't get anywhere in the NHL without their star goaltender. Right. So, yes, say whatever you want about his stats last year and whatever. I know you were trailing the series and you felt like you needed to make a desperate move. But it's not like this dude sucks.
No.
It's not like he's a bad goaltender. First off, last year's stats against Edmonton have absolutely nothing to do with this year's stats.
Right.
So I think that's a total cop-out. Now, fine, you want to make an argument about giving up 2 shots early on, 2 goals on only 2 shots early on. Sure, I could listen to that. But if you bring up last year's stats, it sounds like you have a personal vendetta against him, which go work that out yourself.
Don't need to get the media involved, or
No.
and steamroll him after
Right.
after your elimination.
No
like he
need-
probably already feels terrible as it is, and now your head coach is coming up in front of media
And talking bad about you.
and just completely throwing you under the bus.
No, I think that's a really poor look.
Terrible.
Poor coaching. I'm glad he's out of the playoffs.
We'll see if he's still if he continues to be with Dallas, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
Saw some articles this morning that a change could be coming.
Did you?
Yeah.
Sean, what are your thoughts? I know you're a big NHL guy.
Yeah, I think he can't be back.
Did they make the conference finals last year? It's okay if nobody knows.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was a rematch.
Edmonton and Dallas last year. So
Yeah.
losing 2 conference finals in a row. See,
Yeah.
yeah, that plus
They didn't
willing-
score though. Like
Right,
it can't be the goalie's fault.
right. Talk about Mikko Rantanen not having any points.
Yeah.
Right? Don't talk about your goalie.
Your defense
Or
right in
don't
front of him.
just talk about your goalie.
Exactly.
Talk about everybody. Don't just throw your goalie under the bus. I think that's a very poor look, poor leadership, poor coaching. You can't have that. So,
100%.
yeah, I hope he gets fired.
We'll see, man. We'll see. But I do feel bad for Jake. Technical foul on DeBoer. You
Yeah.
don't even if a player causes you to lose, you don't steamroll your guy like that. Poor leadership.
And in a team sport, rarely ever does one player cause you to lose.
That's
right?
yes, absolutely.
They still lost after they pulled him. So
Yeah.
okay, we're way over. We got to take a break. Coming up next, we'll get back to Orlando, talk about some of the Big 12 spring meetings. In particular, our guy Mitch Harper caught up with BYU athletic Brian Santiago. We want to replay some of those comments next. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.